hopefully this is working. We'll find out shortly. Right, so I'm getting the thumbs up from Keith. So hi everyone, welcome to my first ever stream. So we'll see how this goes. The idea is I want to try and introduce different Azure topics, different technologies, and discussions and demos. So I'm going to show you a little bit later on a calendar invite that I've set up so that you guys and girls and people in tech come on, discuss things, demo things, show me new stuff, talk about stuff, write code, do all sorts of stuff on stream, and we'll just learn together. So that's the idea. I've always wanted to do this, and I finally got time to set this up. So let's go ahead. So to kick off the stream, and let's see if I can press all the right buttons, but we're going to speak to Keith Atherton. So let me see if I can add Keith to the stream. Hey, hi Keith, how are you?
Very good, thanks, Gregor. How's things?
Yeah, good. Welcome to the first ever live stream. We'll see how this goes. There's one or two people tuning in, so we'll say hello to them later on. So today you wanted to talk to me about, or talk to us about careers, is that right?
Yeah, I figured we've both had varied careers. I know many in the industry and in the community have as well. So I thought might be an interesting topic just to see what our experiences have
Yeah,
been like.
why not? Just before we go on a little bit further, so you've just became an MVP, so I just wanted to say congratulations on that. So how's it feel to be an MVP the last month or so?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was actually last month. So yeah, just a few weeks in, and I've got to be honest, it was a pleasant surprise. I certainly didn't expect it, and it wasn't something I was aiming for. But I was really really pleased and very proud when I received it, because there are a lot of MVPs in the community and non-MVPs. But to not embarrass you, Gregor, you're one of them as well that inspire me. You share the knowledge.
You're not allowed to embarrass me. That's not part of the deal.
It's quite early on. I'm doing this as well.
Get the move button clicked in a minute.
I'll have to be careful. No, there's a lot of people in the community inspire me. So to be part of that club and part of the community, it's a real honour, to be honest. I'm really happy.
Awesome. Good. I'm just going to try and figure out how this works. But Keith, Mert saying hello. So hello, Mert.
Hey, Mert.
Hello, Nick. Who else have we got? We've got Carol. Hi, Carol. How you doing? Good to see you on. Thanks for joining. And there's Vickerson. Oh, hi, Vickerson. How are you, sir? Hopefully you're all going to come on this show at some point. So before I go a little bit before we start, right, let me just see if I can figure out how to do this. So I'm going to show you oh no, I've done it already. Let me just get rid of, see, this is, you shouldn't let me near things. Here's the banner that I want to show. This URL here. So if you go to calendly.com/g30/live-streaming, my calendar will come up, and I'm hoping that you can come on and chat to me about something, anything of your choice, for either an hour or whatever. I've booked 7 till 10 free every night, but if the time doesn't suit people, then just drop me a message on Twitter and we can do it during the day or whatever. But we'll try and live stream comment subjects. I've already got a few subjects lined up, so let me know what you want to speak about or demo and just have a chat about. If you want to just come on and have a chat, that's fine. But I'm hoping to do this as often as possible. So I'm going to be writing some code, doing my own streaming stuff as well. So I've been writing a little app that I want to kind of get people to kind of join in and help with, and maybe help me fix and make it a lot better. So that would be quite good. But if anybody's got any ideas on any topics, just drop me a message and we'll try and sort it out. Be good to do that. Let's see. We've got some comments here. Sorry, and there's Camilo. Let's say hello to Camilo. Hello. How are you, sir? All good. Right. Okay. So you wanted to chat today about careers. So did you have anything in particular that you wanted to chat about? Did you want to ask me about mine, or did you want to talk about yours? But let me ask you about your career. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah, so sure.
Give everyone a little bit of a background to Keith and how you started in IT and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah, sure thing. So mine, I guess like a lot of people's, my career has been quite varied. And I've always seen that as a bit of an advantage, because I do like learning new things, being part of different sectors, working in different countries as well. I've moved countries a few times. So every time I've had like a different experience, I've been able to kind of transfer that knowledge into a new role. So I've not really stayed at one place, where the benefit could be you specialize in that domain, you specialize in that sector. I've kind of moved around a fair few times. So I think, so originally from England, then moved to Scotland, then lived in the US for a few years, and now back to Scotland, quite happily settled here as well. but yeah, working in different sectors as well, I've been able to just pick up different things they look for.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always found quite interesting along the way. So I don't know if that resonates with anyone else as well, but it certainly worked well for me.
Yeah.
But just to ask yourself, Gregor, I know you've got some experience with finance and some other sectors, but
Yeah.
what's your path been? Like
And my
a
path
summary of your
was
path.
when I left high school, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, like not a clue. And one of my best pals said, "Do you want to go to Cobridge College?" So we're like last year at high school, didn't do very well in exams because I got fed up with school at that point, to be honest. And then he's like, "Do you want to go and do an HNC, which is like a kind of it's a certificate in like I think it's like higher national certificate in computing?" And I was like, "Okay, let's do that." Sounded like a good laugh. So we went to Cobridge College and we did that. And then the following year, I did actually quite well at that, so I quite enjoyed it. And then the guy was like, "Do you want to come back and do an HND, which is one more year?" So I was like, "Okay, let's do that." So again, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And then it was like my pal said, "You can go to Paisley Uni and do a 1 year degree." Now, a 1 year degree is almost not heard of. And it was like in computing, and I was like, "Right, let's do that." So off I went to Paisley and did that, and then did quite well. And the lecturer, one of the lecturers, was like, "Would you like to, while you're doing the study, would you like to go and do some work for some customers for some real companies?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So that's kind of how I started. And then I saw a job in Stirling of all places, which is a little bit of a mission to get to when you can't drive because I was too young. I hadn't passed my test at this point. So it was like an hour and a half on the train, and then I had to get the train from. I actually had to get the train from where I live to Glasgow, then a train from Glasgow to Stirling, then walk up and get a bus up to the uni, and then junior programmer, didn't know anything about anything, literally no idea what I was doing at all. And thankfully, I worked at a company that was like a small 26 people company, and this girl was like, "I'm the senior dev, I'll show you how to do stuff," and it just went from there. So I literally learned from no idea what I was doing. I started doing VB6. I'd never seen VB6 in my life, so it was quite scary, to be honest with you. I had learned doing like Turbo Pascal and stuff like that. So
Oh, that's
doing
funny.
this
That,
company
that
now,
that's
yeah.
my first language as well. Yeah.
Turbo Pascal was great, but it was like
Yeah.
it was a great way to learn, but we didn't really learn anything real world. So this girl
Yeah.
took me under her wing. So I owe my entire career to this girl because at that point I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with her, or do you know where she
No,
is now?
unfortunately, no. She got a job for the Bank of Bermuda and then moved to Bermuda, so she did well as
Okay,
well.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Because the Bank of Bermuda actually had an office in Stirling of all places, so that was quite a funny story. Um,
That's interesting.
but yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I just loved the company, and then I kind of went from there and just learned to code from this girl basically. So
That's
that's how I
brilliant.
started. Yeah, and then just got the bug.
Yeah, it's funny as well because unintentionally as well, Turbo Pascal was the first language I used. I was 17. I was doing A levels in England, so I was at college then. So I'd left school. My grades were okay. I'd left school, but then I went to do some A levels. But like you, I didn't know what I wanted to do,
Yeah,
and I had like a mix. I've always been quite varied. I've always liked like a mix of things. So at school, my favorite subject was art. Always been creative. Always loved art. But I find I could do technical subjects, things like physics and maths and
yeah.
things. So when I went to college, I'm like, don't know what my career is going to look like. Don't know what I want to do. So I picked art with physics and maths.
All right.
Obviously,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
But I just knew that I didn't know which way I was going to go. It quite soon I realised that art was quite subjective. I wasn't getting the grades I was after, and it was a bit more. It wasn't quite what I had in mind for a career. Even though I
yeah,
enjoyed it, I kind of put that in the hobby box. But then I went back to, okay, what can I do with the technical subjects? But like you, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't do great at A level, but there was enough that I could get to university, and I did a physics degree again, just because I like the challenge of it, the maths, the big questions that it
yeah.
asks. But with no career in mind, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was hoping on the degree that I'd learn more and think, well, maybe it's research or academia or whatever the case would be. But it was actually doing some programming along the way that I got the bug for. So by the end of it, I was like, okay, I want to do that full time.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to find a consultancy in London. So that was a bit of a move. I'm from the Midlands, so it was a bit of a trek. I actually moved to just outside London to my first job, which was a consultancy. But they were going to provide training, put me on a couple of courses, train me on the job as well. So that was really my starting point into to development, really.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate where I landed my feet. Yeah, so I just got the bug like you, and then went from there. Started off as like a junior developer, and then did that for a couple of years, and then unfortunately the company got bought over because we were actually one of the companies in Scotland that did proper documentation and testing. So a big company in London bought us out, and then when they bought us out, everybody left. So kind of had to try and find a new job, and then went on to becoming like a dev in a place in Glasgow, which I still get in touch with, which is really good. I was there for quite a while, but I was in my first job for 11 years, which was
Oh,
quite
that's
good.
impressive.
Yeah,
That's good.
no, it was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then talking about careers, how did you start getting into like what you're into now? When did that? At what point did you kind of go away from doing writing code to kind of more Power Platform, Azure type stuff? When did you kind of start doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was kind of a gradual process for me. So, yeah, there was a lot of things that I think many years in the career. So I started with a couple of consultancies,
Mm-hmm.
moved around England a bit for a few different places. And then I kind of settled down to using mostly Microsoft stack. So things
Same.
like .NET, SQL Server. There was a bit of EB6 here and there as
Oh, you
well.
did DB6 as well? The
Yeah,
best
oh
coding
yeah.
language of all time. Showing your age now.
Too right,
Anyone under 40, it's like back in the day, this was the language that we started in your career with.
Yeah. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Do
No,
yourself a favor. Don't look it up.
Plus and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, that was it. And I think when I was doing more with .NET, I did enjoy that it was OO. You had a lot more power. It's something that's still evolving as well. New versions coming out all the time as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that I really took to. And I think over the last few years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a couple of things that I'd realized that many years in the career that I'd been doing the same again. And that was okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to sort of modernize my skills, learn a few new tricks.
Yeah.
And then when I was asking around the community, I didn't know much about Azure or cloud computing in general. So I was asking about AWS, Azure, a few other things as well. So it was really when I got intrigued, like, okay, what can these do? And I did find Azure and AWS, to be fair, of just like a big toy box. Like, it's just this that you open it up. Oh, I can play with AI and compute and databases. I could just pay for what I need. There's all this thing like, oh, I could play with this instead of spin my own, or kind of just go the old school on-prem, the way that I always knew. I was like, okay, I want to learn some of the new things. And then to try and learn a bit more, I thought, okay, I'll take a Microsoft certification. Azure would fit well, part of the Microsoft ecosystem. I've got maybe over 20 years or so of .NET experience now.
Showing your age again. Yeah.
I've been around the block, yeah. So I thought, okay, well, Azure, some of the Microsoft services, they'd work well with that. Let's look into this. I got advised to do the AZ900. Just as a good starting. Yeah, it was brilliant as well. It was this good overview of everything it could do. So I thought, okay, well, I'll study for that. I'll try and see what it's capable of, see if I'm ready to take an exam.
And where were you working? Where were you working when you did this? Were you doing cloud at the moment, or were you just learning this for your own benefit?
It's for my own benefit, actually. There was a couple of reasons for that. I tried to use it in the place I worked, which I was in an IT department as a developer, just in-house. So it was just internal customers, not external consulting or anything. And it was a good job. There's some really good people there, but we was using the same stack week in, week out. And I think they had done for many years, maybe 5+ years, it'd been the same pretty much, but I could see the next 5 to 10 years potentially staying the same as well.
Same stuff. Yeah, the same stack.
Yeah, and I wanted to modernize, well, for many reasons. One, just to play with the new toys, see what was out there, but also just to, to be honest, keep my career in mind, what my future prospects will be.
Well, that's an important thing, which I wanted to kind of mention. It's an important thing to, no matter where you are, to kind of think about your career long term as well. You kind of just stay in the same place doing the same stuff all the time. Not that I'm saying that everybody should move, but it's important to keep that in mind.
I think so too. I think there's a few reasons. One, you might just want to play with the new toys, which was part of the reason I was looking into it. The other thing might be that, you decide to leave, or you can't get the promotion where you are, or whatever reason you decide to make the choice. But I think some people as well, just to bear in mind that it might not be your choice. The place might have redundancies, or they might fully close or get bought out. Like you
And
mentioned.
did you get career advice from anyone, or were you just doing this on your own?
I was mostly doing it on myself to start with, but I did ask around a few people to say, look, Azure seems interesting. Where do I start? Some people advised the certifications. Okay, which one do I start with? I was totally new. I'd never taken one before.
Yeah.
But because I was learning it on the side, I passed a couple. I passed AZ 900. And then I think the next one was maybe the data platform, the DP 900, a couple of the fundamental ones. Just so, okay, I get a good grounding and I don't just cherry pick the couple of things I would use. I want to get a full understanding of what this can do. Certification would be good for the CV too. Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's true.
But it was also, the more I'd learned about these things and thought, oh, wow, you can do all these cool things, then I got the bug of, I want to be using these things.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I did ask where I was working, even if we could do a few trial licenses, just evaluate a few things. That was a bit of a no-go, unfortunately. It was still a great place to work, but they just didn't have the capacity to try new things, or it kept getting delayed. So I thought, okay, I need to start looking around if I really want to use this. Otherwise, I would just be passing exams, never use it, forget about it. And then, what's the point in that? So, yeah, for me, I thought, okay, I need to get off my own back, find something new where I can use this or partially use it. And luckily, that's where I'm working now. I do get a chance to use that, which is great.
Awesome. Do you ever look at any like the Garter things that tell you what's going to be trending in the next 5 years, tech-wise, or anything like that? Do you ever look at anything like that?
Yeah, the magic quadrant stuff.
Do you ever look at that?
Yeah, a few with Gartner. I used to work somewhere where they had a partnership and we had access to all the research. And sometimes Forrester, I see a few reports from them as well. So it's one of those that I don't keep regular up to date, but now and again I'll get the updates. So like, oh, that's good. But sometimes it just luckily confirms where I'm looking right now, whether it be Azure or Power Platform.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from you there is you keep an eye on things that are in the future, and you keep an eye on career moves, and you kind of want to play with the kind of tech that was going to be the next big thing, because cloud was the next big thing back then, I would suggest.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. And I think that was maybe early days. I've just been around for a while, so is AWS. Many others as well. But I think early days, it was just one of those other buzzwords, like ChatGPT is these days. But there are a lot of practical applications too. But I wasn't working anywhere that was using that new modern stuff. So it was like, oh, I've heard of it. I've read up on it. I'm like, oh, that looks nice. But that was it.
So when you did the exams, did you have an Azure account at that point, or what? How did you try and learn hands-on? Because I'm a big believer in learning hands-on.
Yeah.
What were you doing for that?
So I must admit, I think for the AZ 900, the first one, it was mostly Microsoft Learn, which was in a really good state by that point. That was maybe a couple of years ago, something like that. And it was really good. There was some hands-on labs that you could do, so you could kind of walk through step by step, which was really good. And I did have that first year of the Azure credits, so where you get some credits, you can play around with things for free as well. So I did some minimal for that first AZ 900, but I think the big thing with those fundamentals is that because it is all about understanding the concepts, I didn't get too hands-on there until I started to look at some other fundamentals. And I thought, okay, I actually better start using this so I know what I'm talking about.
Cool. We've got a question here from Learn Azure with Nick, so I'm going to let you answer this one.
Hey, Nick. Yeah, go for it.
What is the magic quantum stuff? Even though he's mentioned me.
Oh, he's addressed you, Greg. I mean, I could palm this off, but so the magic...
I don't even know what it is. I've read about it, and I still don't really get it, to be honest with you.
I can look this up. So it's,
I was looking it up just while you were chatting there.
So yeah, the magic quadrant, it's a really good way that they've classified different technologies. So let me see if I can...
I thought you said quantum. Sorry, I was thinking of quantum computing. The quadrant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was getting the wrong end of the stick there.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. So I was lucky enough. I did study quantum physics when I was at uni, but I've never used it. But yeah, quantum computing, that's another topic as well. Could be
Yeah.
interesting in
Hope
future.
he's not talking. Hope he's not asking us
Um,
about that.
but yeah, that's out of my realm at the moment. But yeah, the quadrant as well. That's research done by Gartner. Shows what's trending, what's up and
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it's
you
quite
did
interesting.
the you learned the Azure 9 AZ900 without hands-on. You were just kind of reading about it. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, for the bulk, I did get the free credits from Azure, but it was mostly reading with just a little,
So my
10% use.
my background's very similar. I was working at a big American bank in Glasgow, and it was like what you would call a feature factory. You just worked on sprints and you did features on the same app for the last 2 years, and I was getting really bored with it. And I was like, right. And they were spinning up a cloud team, but unfortunately, they were building their own cloud, which I thought, oh, that's going to take like 5 years to get anywhere. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do cloud where I am. I need to go and learn some cloud. So, like you, I've got a Microsoft background all my days. So, a bit of a Microsoft fanboy. Had a quick look at AWS and just went, don't even know what these services are. Let's start with Azure. So, I kind of started there. But I made the mistake of trying to do the developer exam because I had a developer background. Did it just reading, no hands on. So I took I think it was the AZ 100 or 101 or whatever it was back in the day. It was like really old
Mm.
one and failed that miserably. And then, in fact, no, I didn't fail it miserably. I failed it just actually. And then I did the one after that and failed that as well. So I was off to a start of no Azure exams out of two and thinking maybe this isn't for me. And then I started doing the hands-on thing where I actually subscribed to like set up the Azure account and got the free account and did that. So for people who are thinking about getting into cloud, I would definitely recommend setting up an Azure account. Obviously, do AZ900. Even if you haven't done AZ900, you probably learn something. Because I'm teaching that
Yeah.
internally to a couple of people at work, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and I'm like, "Neither did I." Some things that I didn't know that. Things like the oh, I can't even remember what it was, but I was just like, "Whoa, didn't know that." So it's good to learn. Plus, it's a good start if you're thinking about doing other exams because it's a gentle introduction to cloud and Azure, and you get an idea what the exams are like. It's funny
Yeah.
when I'm training these people and I'm saying exams, they can see the fear of the word exam, and they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh no, it's fine. They've got practice tests now." So yeah,
Yeah, it's really improved in recent times.
yeah,
There, as you say, you got the practice assessments. There's even an exam sandbox, so you can kind of preview what the UI would like with all the multiple choice and the way you would answer things as well.
yeah,
So yeah, it's really improved. I think yeah, what I would have done differently if I'd done it again was
mhm,
had more hands on. Again, I think the first one, AZ 900, mostly reading with just a little hands on, but
yeah,
it was just a token minimal amount. I think if I was doing it again, I would just play around with those free credits, just give it a
yeah,
go, and then.
yeah,
But the other thing you mentioned is useful too is that taking the certification for me was my mindset was that if I get the foundation of learning enough to be able to pass an exam in it, I've got a good foundational knowledge. Whereas if I just cherry picked, like, okay, I need an Azure SQL and I
yeah,
need an app service, and that's
yeah.
all, I'd be missing all the other.
The joining, how it all works together.
Exactly. I'd have all these gaps in the knowledge. I
Yeah.
know I wouldn't be a good place to consult or advise anyone else using it. So I was like, okay,
So
let me look at the exam.
part of the streaming thing that I want to get into is building apps and showing people how things join together because even when you're doing like Bicep's great at like I can do a storage account, I can do a web app, but making these talk together correctly is a bit of a skill and you need to know what you're doing or it's difficult to learn if you don't know the networking bit behind it. So there's bits you need to fill in. So as part of the streaming I'm going to try and cover as much as we can. But I just see there's a couple of questions here, so let's bring up Mel's question, which is saying, how do you make a career switch into AI? Which is a great question, and a lot of people are probably thinking, how do I get into AI? What would you
Yeah,
say, first of all, how would you, if you were switching to AI, for example, what would you start with?
that's a really good one. I
Hmm,
think, again, I know this sounds a bit of a broken record, but with Azure, with the free credits, and I'm sure other offerings, AWS may have this too, is
yeah,
if you could play around with the services.
mm-hmm.
Certifications have worked well for me to give me a good foundational knowledge. I know there's
What a great,
AI 900, so that's the Azure AI fundamentals. There's also an associate level for AI with Azure as well. So those will give you a good grounding. But I remember when I studied for the AI 900, there was some good step-by-step sort of labs where you could walk through and try out the services. And that was great because then it forced me to be hands-on and see how it would work, and also know that there are, you know, Azure ML and Auto ML, you know, if you're brand new to it.
See if I can see the labs quickly. What was it? AI 100?
Yeah, so, I think 100 is the associate, isn't it?
What I tend to do is if I go to GitHub and I'll just search like AI 100. That I usually find the labs. And this time I haven't. Let me just see if I can. No, let me just Google it real quick, because you can just, if you search for the right thing, let's just do GitHub AI 100 labs. Yeah, here we go. So I just searched for GitHub AI 100 labs, and you end up on like this kind of, end up kind of like here. So let's show that. So that's the kind of place that I would start and go through the hands-on labs.
Great.
Yeah. So when I'm trying to learn something new, I'll read all the I can, but you still need to do hands-on. So if I was transitioning to be AI, I would do the same. I would go and look at the AI fundamentals exam, go through the Microsoft Learn courses, you know, the things that we're probably all familiar with, but I would certainly do that. And there's Sharon saying, let me just move this. Sharon's saying here that there's an AI Cloud Skills Challenge. Yeah, coming up the 17th of July. If somebody's got, let me try and see if I can.
Thanks, Sharon. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, thanks,
I'm looking forward to that.
I'll dig out the link in a wee bit, but I'll probably break the stream if I try and do too much. Yeah, so do that. Start with that, and then that'll take you through the Microsoft Learn courses.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would start with that. That's kind of how I learn most things. So I get slagged for doing lots of exams, but the reason why I do them is I want to fill in. I'm never going to be an AI expert, but I'm interested in it. You know, I'm thinking, you know, I'd quite like to know in case a customer phones me up and says, "What's this AI all about?" I'll have some idea. Just like the networking, I'm never going to be good at Azure networking, but I went from like 0 out of 10 to maybe 2 out of 10, so I've got some idea. I scraped to pass an exam, but you know, it's worth doing this kind of stuff just to fill in gaps.
I think so too. I think what you mentioned there as well about, you know, if someone comes to ask you the question, you know, it's good to be armed with some basics at least. Or another thing, if a customer's already using it, it wouldn't be, oh, could you just give me 2 months so I can pass the exam?
Exactly.
You know, if I've got some of the basics at the ready, and then I can do research into any gaps, that's a good starting point.
Totally. I'm just seeing if there's any other questions. Hi, Europe. Nice to see you here. I just saw Europe's joined. Hello, Sharon. I know you mentioned a little bit, but hello, Sharon. Nice to have you on. Yeah, so that's how I would go about learning. So, what other tools have you got for learning other than hands-on labs? What other kind of thing? Oh, there's some more comments. What would you recommend?
Yeah,
hackathon and OpenAI. Yeah, that's a good idea. Join some hackathons.
Yeah, that's really cool actually. And I've noticed online as well, there are some good courses more about sort of general AI. You know, if you want to understand the concepts, it's maybe they're not all as hands-on, but it's more about the theory, how neural networks work, and so on. So again, if that's something that appeals, you know, that could be something to look into as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to try and find there's a repo that I saw earlier recently. The guy at work showed us. This is really cool, actually. Oh, let me post this. A repo called What the Hack. And it's all about. If you have a look at that, folks, you can go in there and do. It's kind of like hackathons on all sorts of different subjects. So there's something for everyone. There's all of Azure and cloud and non-cloud and Power Platform and all that good stuff. So have a look at that as well. That's definitely worth having a look at. Okay, so back to career chat. Just get back on track a little bit more. So you learned cloud, and what are you doing in your day-to-day job now? Then what sort of stuff are you doing day-to-day? Are you still doing exams?
Yeah, I am. So I'm taking a little bit of a break at the moment, but yeah, I'll be returning to them. Yeah, that's
too many too soon.
That's it. It's funny because I've gone in phases where I took a few. Like I started with a couple of the fundamentals for Azure, so AZ 900, I think DP 900 and AI 900. I think I took those 2 or 3, and then I kind of had a gap. You know, finding a new job, doing some other things, then took another 2 or 3, and then had a gap. So the gap at the moment, I'm actually working on a LinkedIn Learning course because, like yourself, Gregor, I'm a LinkedIn Learning instructor as well. So I've got one published course, but I'm working on a course at the moment. So just to not spread myself too thin, I'm just on a break from learning new things while I write this course and create the course with LinkedIn. And then I think when that's published or getting near to being published, I'll go ahead and get back on the certification train. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it for a while. Yeah, I hate doing exams. I'm the kind of person that wants to finish the exam as soon as they start it. Like I am I'm sweating before it. I just don't like doing them. I've done a lot, but I don't really want to do any more. None at the moment. I do hear some good things. I can't go into too much detail, but I do hear some good things about exams coming up that'll be hands-on. So it won't be A, B, C, or D. It'll be hands-on. That's all I'm going to say. But that'll be cool stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
they've kind of realised they need to start doing hands-on stuff. So there's some of that's on its way, which will be good.
More practical then. Like I know we get that with sometimes with the associates and the experts. It's like, here's your case study, or here's the hands-on lab, isn't it? So
yeah.
I'd be in favour of that as well, because that's closer to the real life of using it quite often as well.
Yeah. So what do you do day to day in the cloud at the moment? What are you kind of working on at the moment?
So I guess the LinkedIn is just a side thing that I'm working on. But yeah, in terms of the day job, I work for a consultancy in Edinburgh called Quorum. I'm one of the senior developers there. But really, it's a good mix, which kind of keeps me interested. It's quite varied. So I do the architecture of some of the systems, the hands-on dev. And if this, sometimes it's pre-sales, lots of client-facing work as well, which I particularly like. I'd always thought of myself as a people person, so that's something that I particularly enjoy, to be honest. But yeah, it's quite a broad mix. I think Power Platform is probably the thing that takes up most of my time at the moment, which I really enjoy using. I think when I first started, which was when I started this job just over a year ago, I've been using it for February last year. So yeah, kind of a year and a few months. Is when I first started, coming from a .NET background, I'm sure like many others, I worked on some complex systems with code using OO and game development and simulations and all kinds of stuff. So when I first started seeing the sort of the drag and drop of the Power Platform, and the kind of that's it, and Excel formula type language for the coding, I did think. First impressions, I thought this is great. It's easy to use, but how would I get limited? Can I go beyond that and dig deeper? And luckily, I've learned since then, quite early on. Luckily, that you can, you can use pro code, you can build custom components. There's so much you can do.
Have you done exams on Power Platform?
Yeah, I've done the PL 900, which is the fundamentals, and I recently passed the developer associate for Power Platform.
If you're talking to the people who are listening to this and you're trying to, you're going to tell me how, if I wanted to do Power Platform, because I've never touched Power Platform at all, if I'm going to get started on that and do the PL 900 fundamentals, how would I go about getting started on that? Like, if you were asked that question, what would you suggest?
Yeah, that's a good one as well, because there's.
Do I need to do hands-on, or for the fundamentals, do you think I could just do the learn courses, or how would I get started?
I would say if it was just to pass the exam, I would say you probably just need Microsoft Learn for PL 900. It's understanding concepts and what's on offer. So that could be a good starting point. There's also a good free Microsoft Power Platform course on Udacity as well. So you don't need to pay. You just get free access.
Oh, nice.
And that was a starting point for me as well. So before I even took the PL 900, I did that to see what is this, and they actually just walk through. Here's a basic app. Here's what the code looks like. Really, really, really good. So that was me watching a few videos, because it's video-based content instead of Microsoft Learn, which is mostly reading. So I could just sit back and follow along with a couple of things if I want to, but it was really just see. You do dev in the browser. Oh, that's great. Okay. Right. Or how does it look? So that was my good starting point. The other thing I'd recommend is, if anyone wanted to get started, there's a free Power Platform developer plan you can sign up to as well. So,
all right. Whereabouts do you sign up for that? In Azure or what?
No, there's actually a dedicated page. Actually, I'll find you the page. Yeah, I'll share the link for that one.
Sorry, I don't really know too much about Power Platform, even though I was at your talk the other day there about it. I know.
I assume
paying attention, honestly. So for anyone, while Keith's looking at that, he was giving a talk at the Glasgow Azure user group. So I'm sure he didn't talk about this. Otherwise, I wasn't paying attention.
To be honest, it was a quick slide at the end to say, hey, there's a developer plan. You can get started for free.
Yeah.
I've just shared the link there. Thanks.
So Dan's saying he does the Microsoft Learn path, rinse and repeat of the free Microsoft Practice exam, and that did the job for me. That's always a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And that's worked well for me for many fundamentals as well. There is this developer plan that I mentioned where you do get the free access. There's also free trials for all parts of the Power Platform. You can get 30 days to play with these things. So even if you had spare time over 30 days, you could at least try it for a few weeks and see, is this for me?
Yeah, that's a good tip. Sean's just said it's a good tip about Udacity. I didn't know that either. Yeah.
You know what?
If you find any links, stick them in the private chat, and I'll just. Oh, here they're here. Actually, you've already beat me to it. Let me just put these in the chat if I can figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a great course as well. It's Donna Sarkar and a few other people.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
That's the how to set up the environment and get started. Is that link?
Yeah, that's the free developer plan. And then I've just shared in our chat there, Gregor, there's one for the Udacity course. Again, it's a few hours, but it's a really good starting point of how do I use flows with apps, things like that.
Ah, cool. I would normally try and show something on the screen, but I'll probably break the stream. So we'll do that further down the line when I figure out StreamYard a bit more.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out all these buttons is good fun.
New toys.
Yeah, new toys. Lots of weird stuff popping up, and I'm just like, what's happening? Yeah, so that's a good way of learning. Yeah, because you can kind of rinse and repeat, as Dan said. You can, if you want to do the fundamentals, Microsoft Learn's good. I think once you get into the more experienced courses, you definitely need to do hands-on labs and kind of get into it a bit more.
Yeah, I think so. Certainly for the developer associate, I certainly needed to do that.
I'm getting asked at work, what's the path? And I think the path for most people, like engineers, stroke devs, is AZ900 and then 104 or 204. You kind of go that way.
The admin, the dev.
104 and 204 are hands-on. You're not passing these exams just by reading. You're just not. You need to start getting a free Microsoft account and start dabbling, which is good fun anyway. I think people learn more hands-on anyway. I certainly do.
Yeah, me too. It really cements the knowledge, but also sometimes there's a quirk of, oh, that's funny. I read it like this. I thought it meant A, but it actually does B. So yeah, nothing beats hands-on for sure for me.
So
the good thing I mentioned as well with Power Platform is it can integrate well with Microsoft 365 and Azure and other things. Again, it's part of the Microsoft stack, so it does integrate well with many other things as well. So it doesn't have to be used in isolation. Yeah.
Certainly from an outsider looking in, the community looks amazing. It really does come across as a super, super awesome community, I must admit. When you see all the people going to all the events and there's lots of events and lots of speaking opportunities and lots of really great people in it. So it's definitely one of the best communities going. So that's definitely a good thing.
I can highly recommend that. Even Sharon on the call is part of the community and many others too. And it's, people share the knowledge. They really help. Sharon writes great articles on LinkedIn, about learning and concepts of learning and things. But so many people do, and they're just so sharing and giving. I know many in the Azure community and others are as well. But Power Platform's a really good community. Yeah,
Camilla's put a message in saying, I couldn't understand the networking side of 104 before I started doing it for real, and I was just I'm exactly the same. I think I tried to do 104 without even ignoring networking, almost kind of denying all knowledge of it. I'm like, I've got a dev
background. Else will do that,
and I could just say I've got a dev background. I don't do networking because that was my excuse. But I think Camilo, I did the same. Sometimes you just need to learn enough to get by. That's kind of why I did the networking exam. I scraped a pass, but I just wanted to know enough just to be almost dangerous, is what I would suggest.
Yeah, that was a similar thing when I was doing, I think it was SC900, the security, compliance, identity fundamentals. And then it was talk of VSGs and VNets and how you would deal with some of the networking side. That actually got me interested to learn more and then play with the stuff because I'd not had to use much of the networking myself. So sometimes it feeds into itself. It's good.
We've also got mentioned from Andrew. Let me show that as well. So he's saying that regarding the learning path, Azure Charts. Yeah, Azure Charts is really good. If you're not familiar with Azure Charts, let me just put it in It's just AzureCharts.com, really. It's very good.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love how it's got those use cases to say, okay, I want to use Azure SQL with this, and here's the
Yeah.
different solutions you can play with for
Yeah.
that.
Really
Really,
cool.
really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's got information on all of the services, where they're deployed, the cost per region. It's got a quiz. It's got all sorts of stuff written by a guy who works in Microsoft. So yeah, check that out if you haven't. It's good fun.
it's brilliant. Really, another thing that I've been using recently as well. I think if you can find it is the Azure architecture.
The center.
Yeah, it was Azure. Let me see. Yeah, it was like architecture kind of examples for Azure.
Yeah. So there's the
But
Azure Architecture Center.
yes, I think that might be the one actually. But
Yeah,
then
you
you
can
can
go in and
filter it to
see.
say, I want to
Yeah.
use it with Power Platform. I want to use it with this, and they would say,
Mhm.
okay, here's some examples. Yeah.
Yep, that's really good because it gets you the Visio diagram, which is always good for me when I can just copy and steal diagrams. I don't need to fight with Visio because that's my life sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, me
Some
and
of them
Visio
are,
don't like each other.
yeah, some of them are really good. Actually, I saw a really good presentation actually at the shameless plug here, the Scottish Power Platform user group that I co-organised with Stuart Baxter and Charlie Phipps. And Laura Webb came on and did a really good presentation about how you can use PowerPoint and actually build things there, build diagrams, create
yeah.
SVGs, like really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm probably using the tip of the iceberg with PowerPoint, but there was
No. So
all this.
there's a guy called Leo who works. I'll butcher his name and I'll butcher the team he works on at Microsoft, and he did a video on doing architecture diagrams in Visio, and I would not use in PowerPoint. And I wouldn't use anything else because I started doing them and I think they look brilliant and they're dead easy to just hook things up. Because in Visio, I'm trying to like hook this thing up to this thing and the lines are way over here, and I'm like, just I get Visio rage is what I call it. In PowerPoint, it's just like done, and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. So I just don't listen to this Leo, but I just steal all his diagrams because he's really and then paste them in and then go look at my lovely diagram. That looks awesome.
I think I saw that. That was with a black background with the glowing.
He's got the white
glowing
ones as well.
object.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
has he, right?
they look really good. Plus, you
Really
can send
good.
the PowerPoint to people and they can just edit it.
That's good.
Anyone can drag and drop, but like in Visio, I'm just like, yeah, Visio and me just don't go on. So
Yeah,
Dan's asked another question.
Yeah, go for
Ever
it.
came across any exam content that wasn't covered by Microsoft Docs?
That's a good question. You know what? In my experience, that when I did the Power Platform Developer Associate, there were things almost back to what we were saying, where being hands-on was a must. Like, you know, the reading up on Microsoft Learn was really great, but some of the questions in the exam, and it wasn't to catch me out, but I'm like, that wasn't covered in Microsoft Learn. But Microsoft Learn often says, well, here's what you can do. Here's some links where you can learn more. So it's almost like some of the questions delved into maybe those deeper cuts to say, oh, okay, well, if you need to configure it with notifications to do blah, 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 okay, it wasn't on the page on Microsoft Learn, but if I was hands-on, I would have known that. So I'd probably say, that worked for me.
Even the AZ900, I've been teaching that quite a lot recently to people at work, and I think there's still questions that come up that aren't in the Microsoft Learn content.
Yeah,
definitely. One or two, not huge amounts. Yeah.
I found the same. It's just like this little 5% of.
There was questions about. I think it was questions about support time. Like if you've got like a business plan, what's the support hours? And I was like, I have no idea. Why would you want to remember that? That's the kind of thing you just Google. I'm not a fan of the exams for questions like that. That's the kind of thing you go, what's the support hours, and it will tell you. Not interested in learning that stuff.
I know what you mean.
What else we've got? Mert's got a good question here. I saw. There are many career paths we can take. What do you suggest for absolute beginners?
Okay, you go first, Greg.
Well, getting into the cloud, I get asked this all the time. So I would suggest, if you're doing Azure, for example, let's just say we're doing Azure, start with the fundamentals. So I've seen some people do all of the fundamentals and then dive in. That's a good way for figuring out what you're interested in. So I'm always a big believer in you should probably go and learn stuff you're interested in. Like if you're not interested in networking, unless you really need it for your job, don't bother. Go and do like the things that you get a kick out of doing. So some people start with all the what do you call it, the beginner ones, the fundamentals, but definitely start with AZ900. And then, depending on what kind of background and kind of what kind of job role you're interested in, it's usually either AZ 104, which is like the admin, or 204, which is like developer. So kind of start that way and then go from there. But start at the fundamentals and then maybe do all of the fundamentals and see which ones you like. But you might do AI and go, right, I want to be an AI person. I don't know. It's difficult to say, but it depends on your background, I would suggest. What would you answer for that one?
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I've just pinged in our chat there, Gregor, something that this is Microsoft focused again, so apologies if this isn't for everyone, but the Microsoft certification poster shows you broken down per platform. So even just reading through them, like, oh, Dynamics, don't know what that is, and then you might want to read up more just to see what is that, would I want to use it? So that was useful for me when I started with the Azure, and there was like, oh, look, there's a security one. What's available there? And then I would read, what was available. Do I want to do that role? There's something good on Microsoft Learn as well, where I think it's Get Career Ready or something like that, where if you're not technical and you don't know what role you want to do, the good thing with these certifications is that they're quite role focused. They're not product focused anymore. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I kind of want to work in cybersecurity. What's available? And then it would explain well, your day-to-day might be this, you might be using these tools, here's the exams you could take, and so on. But I think, if that's from maybe a complete clean start, but if you do have an idea what you do want to learn, it's maybe just, a bit of searching online to see, what career paths are available, what roles are available out there on LinkedIn and other places as well.
Yeah, no, these posters are really good. I think I quite like the fact that the exams are kind of towards career paths. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to try and explain to people, but if you don't know what you want to do, maybe have a look at them all and see which kind of path you want to go down. I guess doing the fundamentals might give you the idea of, this sounds good, or no, this doesn't sound for me.
Yeah.
So, well, I was going to ask you, I forgot I was going to ask you there. Does anyone else have any other questions while I have a quick drink of Coke? Yeah. Yeah, I use Microsoft Learn. I also use Whiz Labs. I use them quite a lot they've got little 5-minute videos, which I quite like. So if there's something specific that I'm not very good at, I'll watch that video and then I'll do some practice tests. But Microsoft are getting good because on Learn now, there's lots of practice exams popping up for the exams, which is pretty useful. I quite like
that's really good.
Yeah, they're doing that more and more. It's quite a lot. I think there must be about 10 at least now, which is good.
Yeah. Last time I checked, they'd almost doubled what they had available. I've just put something in our chat as well about the career path thing I was talking about. So Mert's really good question there about if you're starting from a clean slate, had no idea. This talks about what careers are available. Again, it's Microsoft focused, but this says, data engineer, what's that? And then you can click and it will say, okay, tell me more about the role, what kind of day-to-day it would be. But this is a really good starting point to see what is available, because even me going through this, business user, data analyst, there's a lot of useful roles on there where you could learn more about them.
Yeah, even things like data. There's like data analyst. There's all these data roles that I'm not really entirely sure what's the difference between this one and this one, and you can go and find out, like data scientist and data analyst and things like that. What's the difference? So that's good stuff like that. I don't have any exams planned. I'm going to wait for this hands-on one to come out and maybe look into that, because I don't know anything about the topic that it's going to be on, so I need to go and learn that. But the fact that I know it's hands-on and you have to go and do stuff and build stuff, that appeals to me.
Will that be a beta exam first?
Or is that just... Yeah.
That would be good.
Have you ever done beta exams?
I've not. I've seen them announced on the blog, and I've heard from others who've taken them.
Yeah, I would recommend them, and I probably going to say the wrong thing here, but if you there's a blog which I'll try and find. There's a person on Twitter who I find who blogs about all of this. I'll try and find that person and then share it maybe in the next stream or in the notes later on. And they put on their blog that this exam's coming up, and it's the first 300 people to register. So you get it I think it's half price or something like that. Maybe, I don't think it's free. Might be free. Now that I'm saying it might be free. And then you get to do it. But the thing is, there's obviously no Microsoft Learn. There's no content for this exam. You just have to do it. You don't find out the score straight after it either. So you have to wait literally 3 months, maybe more. You only find out a week after the exam comes out. So say the exam came out on August the 1st and you did the beta tomorrow, you won't find out if you've passed it until the exam comes out, which can be a little bit painful. But Yeah, 80% off. So here's Constantine. Oh, hi, Constantine. So you get 80% off. And free for MCTs. Yes, that's another good thing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Oh, cool. So Sego's actually restarting his career. That's interesting.
Oh, congrats. All the best
Yeah,
for that,
good.
Seago. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's at Liberty Month. So that's the person I was talking about. That person there on Twitter. Look up that person's name there. It's a lady who works for Microsoft who
Oh,
does.
yeah.
She's got a blog, and
Liberty,
it's
yeah.
like an official blog as well. And you keep an eye on that, and it'll tell you about the beta exams. My personal opinion is, I think I've sat beta exams and sat them and going, I don't know anything about this, and passed them. I think they're slightly easier to pass than exams. Now, I don't mean to offend anyone, but if you fail a beta, I think you've probably like either ended it soon or you've not had a clue about the subject. I think if you've
Right.
got a fair idea of the subject, you'll do okay. That's just my personal opinion.
Interesting.
So I actually like doing the betas because you get to look at the stuff and you're getting tested without any. You can't go and look it up and read it. You know, there's no Microsoft Learn for it.
It's new stuff. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Good to know. Yeah.
yeah. So Dan, what's Dan saying? Dan saying he's got soft skills are half the battle of any career path, without a doubt. What I find interesting is when you go to conferences, there's not really many things about soft skills, which I find a little bit weird.
Yeah, maybe there's an opportunity there, a bit of a gap.
Aye.
Yeah.
I have two bees in my bonnet. Well, three actually. Let's discuss these real quick. Soft skills, I think most conferences could do with like a kind of section on that. The other one is like getting started with GitHub. I think GitHub could do a better job of doing this kind of stuff where they introduce it at schools, so that you're getting people to do open source from an early age. I think that would be a good. And I've completely forgotten what the third one is. Yeah, soft skills, GitHub. I can't remember what the third one was, but yeah, I think when you go to conferences, there should definitely be something on helping people get started in the career, building relationships, as Dan says. That's key. Networking. But the one thing that I always tell people is, my big sister used to say to me, "Network your backside off." Like this is before I even got any like tech. She's like, try and get to know everybody. So I go out of my way to try and get to know everybody so that I can like just know people. When I go to a conference, there's loads of people that I know because I've made it that way. I've went out of my way to try and get friendly with people. There's Luke. Morning all. Luke's just joined. Morning, Luke, from the other side of the world. What time is it? Is it like 7 in the morning or something like that? That's crazy. Yeah, so Dan saying he's working on the soft skill content. Oh, no, brilliant, good stuff. Because I
Yeah,
don't
all
think
the best, Dan.
there's not a lot of that. Yeah, definitely do that and submit that at conferences for sure.
Yeah, I think that would go down well. But yeah, no, Dan makes a really good point because, and so do you there with the networking, I suppose. I guess,
Yeah,
again, just being kind of maybe a bit more extrovert than introvert for myself is I've
yeah,
always liked being with people and mixing with people and meeting clients and working with others. I've never just been I'll go and keep my head down and code. I've always liked to the dynamic with other people. But
yeah,
yeah, as Dan says, it's important because you'll be dealing with people everywhere who you work with, who you work for,
yeah.
clients or pre-sales potential clients. Or if you do teaching and you help others, it's all got a people element.
Yeah, I don't know.
Much of this does.
I used to be like the last person in the world that would go and speak to anyone, but now I seem to. I don't know where. I don't know how. At what point I got half decent at it. Maybe I'm still rubbish at it, and people just don't tell me. But
Oh, it's
I
all
can go into a
no.
room and talk to people now. I never used to be able to do that, and I don't. I have no idea when that happened, but certainly at high school, I would not go and speak to anybody. And then my first couple of jobs, yeah, I don't know.
It's maybe
Not.
just brought it. You've always had it. It's maybe just brought it out of you because
I think I just
I've
fake it. I think I just fake it and then just don't tell anybody. But like, you walk into a room and you're like, "Oh, hello," and you're just like, you just have to go.
yeah,
But
you just
lots of people can't do that, and I totally get that.
yeah, me too. It's one of those that if you just commit and do it and leave kind of the self-consciousness to the side, just park it and just go for it. Most of the time, most people are lovely and welcoming, and it's just great.
So
And
going back to career, right? If you were to leave, let's just say you suddenly didn't like your job right now. What would you do if you wanted to move careers? What would be your advice to someone looking for a career move?
That's a good question. So, any specific career or just getting out
Yeah,
there? Or
maybe another job in the same life field. What advice would you give?
I think you mentioned a good one with networking. I suppose the more people out there, you're aware of opportunities. One of the useful things I found as well, and which helped me with this, making the move to the current job that I've got, is knowing people who've worked there before. So or currently work there. So a lot of the time, a recommendation could be a really, really good thing. If you're getting something done at your house, or you're buying a car from a certain dealership. But if you know someone who's worked or currently works where you're applying for, where you see a job available, or they say, "Oh, this is the most amazing place." Having that network just to be aware of opportunities and say, "Well, I know 3 people who work at this place. They all say it's amazing. I trust all 3 of them. I know them all well. There's got to be something in that." So sometimes the networking can help that way, rather than just the kind of ruthless side of things of, "Oh, can you get me a job at your place?" It could just be, "What's it like there? What's it really like there?"
My I think when my sister said about networking, it was all about finding jobs, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took that advice and kind of maxed it out, really. So my last 3 or 4 jobs, I've not even had an interview. I've been really lucky. Like between you and everyone else on this, when I met Wesley, who I currently work with, I met him at what was it, Ignite in 2019, and he's like, "If you're ever looking for a job, hit me up." So that's kind of how I got where I'm at Interset. And the job before that was the same. It's one of my friends' school. He's like, "Yeah, just networking and finding jobs like that." I do want to move on into Graham's question, because Graham asked a superb question. So hi, Graham, and Constantine,
Hi,
and
Graham.
everybody else, and Marco, and Luke, and everybody else who I've not said hello to. Have you ever suffered from imposter syndrome, and any advice on how to deal with it? I think everyone has. They'd be lying if they didn't. So when's the last time you had that? What would you say?
Let me see. Was it yesterday or the day before? Yeah, I definitely get that. I was, joking aside, it was recently, but it's one of those things where there's always going to be people who know more. There's always going to be, with Power Platform, Azure, and the other things, they're constantly changing. New features come out, things change. But joking aside, we ran this user group a few days ago, and we had someone called Lewis in the Power Platform community give a joint session.
All right.
With someone, and he did with Chris Huntingford. It was Lewis Baber, and Lewis is, I can't remember if he's 18 or so. He's an MVP, and he's so knowledgeable. He's doing this challenge this year of 365 posts for the year.
Oh,
so
wow.
Maybe it doesn't always equal one a day.
Yeah.
Some big ambition, and he's absolutely smashing it, because the posts are quite long form.
Awesome.
They're like screenshots, step by steps. It's not like, "Oh, I've just fobbed off a sentence that will count." It's all deep stuff. But Lewis, when he gave this demo, and he explains it very clearly, and Chris did a great job too, that some of the stuff Lewis was showing, I'm like, "I've never seen that before. That's brilliant. How do you do that?" And there was a couple of moments of like, "I didn't know you could do that." And it's like he's just got this fountain of knowledge, and he's a lovely guy as well. And he's, like many people, shares the knowledge really well. But sometimes it could be something like that, like, "Oh wow, I'm envious of that. I'm not jealous of it, but I'm like, oh, I really want to know about that." But then it's inspired me to do the research, so I do then learn it and start playing with it. Like, "Oh, now I know that bit. That's cool." So it does come up often, to varying degrees. It doesn't mean like, "Oh, I need to change careers now." It's not heavy. But sometimes it could just be like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Maybe I'll study for an exam where I can cover that, or I'll play with that service or something. But I know many people are open about it, and many people experience it. But again, some may be more often than others, or have a deeper impact with others. But for me, it's often, I'm curious now. I want to learn about that, and then I go and do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, probably every day. Like, even, I'll give an example. The Azure user group the other day that I was asked, Sarah always does it, and she was like, "You need to do more and help out," and I was like, "Absolutely fine." She's like, "You can introduce it," and I was just like,
what do I do?
Really? What do I do? It's like mega imposter syndrome. But even on calls today with customers I'm always on calls, and sometimes I don't know what the call's about, and you're on a call and you're thinking, The other thing is, the last year and a bit, I've travelled to all the Microsoft offices to do workshops, and I'm thinking at some point somebody's going to ask me something. I'm going to go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And thankfully, touch wood, it hasn't happened yet because it's usually fundamentals courses and then kind of not stuff that's mega deep dives. But like at some point, I'm going to be like, what? So yeah, I just learned to. You almost have to just swallow it and get on with it. You know, I think it's a difficult one. I don't do presenting because I have deep fear of making a fool of myself or my laptop not working. So I have different kind of imposter syndrome.
And that's reasonable too, as well. To kind
I
of
have the
think
fear,
that.
like when I was doing the user group, I have the fear that my laptop's not going to work with the slides. As you could see, I was just like panicked. So imposter syndrome probably every day. You just learn to try and quieten it down and do it. I'm just throwing myself into this. Like never done streaming in my life, and I'm just going to do it. I'm total imposter syndrome right now, but we're just going to see how it works out.
That's the only way you'll find out as well.
Yeah.
And I think you did that when you did the Glasgow Azure boot camp as well.
Mm-hmm. Never done it in my life. Ran an event, had no idea what I was doing, winging it big time, but wasn't telling anybody that. Probably people could tell, but like you just got to like you come out the end of it, survive, go like that, and move on to the next thing, and then tackle it. But yeah, it's really difficult, and some people just won't be able to put themselves out there, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can certainly do stuff without having to put yourself out there that much. You can still write blog posts and do videos, but it is difficult, especially public speaking. I think it's really hard.
That's a good suggestion, actually. Yeah, even if you wanted to do like a pre-recorded video as opposed to a live stream in case I need to edit this or do a retake, or like say the blog post, you only publish it when you're happy with it. Actually, just a short story there is the first talk I ever did was actually for an event that you and Richard Hooper did, the Festive Tech Calendar.
Oh yeah.
And it was so a couple of years ago. I think it was the first presentation I did. Now I'd been to a couple of tech sort of meetups and user groups, and there was a demo that Pete Gallagher did, who does a lot of IoT work, and he did this cool one with this robotic arm, controlling it with Signal R, and he had like a little basic Blazor app to control. It was really, really cool, and that inspired me to try talking myself. And then when the Festive Tech Calendar was up, and it was just all pre-recorded videos, I thought, great, I won't be in front of a room full of 50 people here. I must have done like 10 takes until I was happy with it. It's only like a half an hour video.
I can all relate to that. Yeah.
But it was a good starting point for me to say, well, I'm not quite, face to face out there, but I'll try it. And then I built from there. But that was my path.
Awesome. Right, we've ran over time, but we'll go through the questions just before we go. So brilliant question, Graham. Love it. Thanks for that. Learn with Nick. Learn Azure with Nick was saying it's not who you know, but who you know instead. I actually think it's who knows you. I think it's who knows you. That's all about the networking part. If somebody knows you, you're looking for a job, or you're good at this, or you're good at that, you'll go places. So I put a little bit of a different slant on it. Constantine was like, "Who's Lewis that you're talking to?" Who's this?
Low Code Lewis. I will share the link to his blog because
Sharon was saying that Dan Barber did a presentation on imposter syndrome. So, Sharon, if you could find that or send me a link, I'll stick that in the notes at the bottom after it. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be really good. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Saying, interesting subject. Yeah, imposter syndrome is horrible. It's just, I actually think Scott Hanselman was talking about this as well. Every time he does anything, he's got imposter syndrome. And you just have to somehow get through it. It's really difficult though. Like anytime I'm doing a workshop from here, I'm pacing up and down 5 minutes before it. I really am. I'm sweating and I'm like bottles of water here because I'm like, this is. And then once I start, I always find 5 minutes into doing something, you're okay.
Yeah, that's it. You get over the initial.
I just can't speak. I'm fumbling words.
So sometimes it's like that with a job interview, right? You go in after the first couple of questions, you realise that you're also interviewing them. They're not just interviewing you, and you're like, oh, actually, this is a kind of fairly equal, transaction that we're going through right now.
Sharon's saying it's Lewis Babert.
I've just shared the link to his blog in our chat there. Great. Thanks, Sharon.
Oh, brilliant. Nice one, Sharon. Okay, let me just... Right, we'll wrap up in about 1 minute. So just before we go, right, if anyone, Luke's saying that's how he got his job, people who know me, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I could go and work in an office, and I don't think I could do a job interview now. I'm hoping I can get a job from people who know me, to be honest with you, because I suck at all that stuff. So, Constantine, you're very welcome. No problem. I suck at all that. There you go. What was it? Dan was saying that 85% of people. I'll bet it's higher than that.
Wow, thanks,
I mean,
Dan.
I think if you don't suffer from it, there's something wrong. Like if these people say if you're not nervous, then you don't care. I'm a firm believer of that.
I've heard that, or you've just got such an overriding overconfidence that it just
Aye,
bounces off you, right?
and then I'm not a fan of people like that. Anyway, right before we go, I don't really have any way of finishing the stream, so just wanted to wrap up and say thanks everyone for joining. Keith, thanks for coming on and having a chat. More
My
than welcome
pleasure.
any time to talk about any subject. Let me just try and put up the banner for this here. If anyone wants to come on and talk about anything in particular, feel free to just fill that in. I've filled it in for 7 till 10 at night, UK time. But if that doesn't suit, we can do it anytime. So just fill that in and reach out to me on Twitter. I don't think I've got my Twitter on here, but it's just Gregor_City. And then we can organise something. We've got streams coming up on Databricks, Python, all sorts of stuff. So don't care what the topic is. Feel free to come on. I talk about anything. If you want to talk about Power Platform, absolutely anything. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. Well, I'll try and edit this and make it a little bit better and kind of get rid of all the ramblings. But thanks for your time. And the next one, I'm not sure when the next one is, but I'll certainly put a retweet so that everyone knows when it's coming. So thanks, Luke, Sharon, Dan, Seago, Constantine, Graham, Michael, Andrew. That's about it. I don't think I missed anyone. Nick, Marco, sorry. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and hopefully this wasn't too bad for the first ever stream. Right, I'm going to close it down, but thank you for your time. Thanks again, and take it easy, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Gregor. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye bye. Bye bye.